guys, welcome back. Today we are going to continue talking about the Ogre Kingdoms. But before we get started, I have a request to make. My mic, for whatever reason, the settings have changed in OBS, so I've had to adjust. So if this is too loud, too quiet, too much background noise, whatever, please let me know in the comments so I can adjust for the next video. Anyways, let's get on talking about the Ogre Kingdoms. Wandering armies of ogres can be found wrecking their way across the globe, and they have many strongholds in far-off and exotic realms. Despite their widespread nature, all ogres refer to the scattered kingdoms along the slopes and river valleys of the mountains of Mourne as their homeland. It is here, amongst those peaks and lowlands, that the ogres rule over their brutal domain. Although they may spend years plundering the four corners of the world, hiring out as mercenaries, or stomping trails of destruction across various nations, an ogre will always seek to return to the mountains of Mourne, if for nothing else than to boast about his exploits. The mountains of Mourne are a vast and sprawling range known for their harsh climate and deadly inhabitants. The snow-covered peaks rise up from the ashen plains of the Darklands and stretch to the east before being overshadowed by the gargantuan mountains of the ancient giant lands. To climb the mountains of Mourne is to leave the tree line below and enter a realm of ice and snow, a craggy land of stony outcrops and sheer cliff faces. Immense slabs of rock jut upwards to jagged heights, reaching far above the clouds. Before passing up into the dense mists, it is possible to look westwards and see the pall that hangs over the plains of the Darklands, punctuated by far-off tongues of glowering orange flames. Volcanoes, or the great forge factories of the Chaos Dwarves. At such heights the winds howl, swirling in all directions and bringing up abrupt weather changes. The impossibly blue skies of high altitude can, in an instant, be replaced by blinding snow squalls, blizzards, and ice storms that can freeze even an ogre solid in moments. The beasts of the mountains. Despite the inhospitable weather, the mountains of Mourne teem with life. Herds of great woolly beasts are plentiful, crisscrossing the boulder-strewn slopes and snowy plateaus, seeking food. They are primeval creatures that have existed unchanged since the world was still covered in ice. Due to their harsh environment, the beasts are hardy, but the weather and steep heights are not the only danger. A host of large and especially fierce predators stalk the mountainsides. To survive against the host of carnivores, even the lowliest herd beasts have developed tremendous size, great strength, or some other defensive trait to combat the red-tooth hunters. The rhinoxen, a common herd animal, will lower their impressively large horns and charge anything that doesn't stink of their own kind. The twin horns of a rhinox can gouge a furrow into a cliff face, and no predator wishes to be on the receiving end of a charge from a single beast, much less a stampeding herd. Likewise feared are ice mammoths, icicle-encrusted pachyderms of colossal size, each equipped with lengthy tusks. It would take an entire pack of starving mad Mourne fangs, or something massive like a frost dragon, to dare a head-on confrontation with a fully grown bull mammoth. Whether predator or prey, hunter or herbivore, all the beasts of the mountains grow large and ferocious. The weak do not live long, succumbing to the elements or prowling monsters, their carcasses left to be picked over by the carrion eaters. Even among this low tier of animals, the skulking scavengers grow menacingly large in the mountains of Mourne. While blood vultures or fang weasels are little more than a nuisance to an ogre, such pests are more than capable of taking down and slaying an unwary Gnoblar. The mountains of Mourne are rife with Gnoblar Gnoblars, particularly around ogre camps, where the thieving creatures live a parasitic existence in the cracks and crevices. Close relatives of goblins, Gnoblars are tolerated by ogres, who find them too scrawny to eat, at least if there is anything else around. Some ogre tribes even allow the little runts to fetch things or tag along to battles. A land of caves. Many caves are riddled into the mountains of Mourne, and there is fierce competition to claim them. Some of these rocky dens are home to mutated monsters. The tri-throated calls of the chimera or the rock-splitting roars of an enraged manticore are not uncommon. The lairs of particularly ferocious monsters have become landmarks, such as the ice caverns where coils the serpentine worm Ymirdrak, a frost dragon so powerful its breath once froze an entire ogre tribe into a glacier-like block of ice, where they were plucked out and eaten at the creature's whim. While most avoid such notorious dens, they are a magnet for foolhardy ogres out to prove their prowess. The stone statues outside the hissing pits are a testament to the legions who have aspired to slay Balorith the Rock Eye, a large and deviously treacherous cockatrice that has haunted this region for several centuries. Most ogres see caves as places to hunt, or, if the fissures are lower down the mountainsides, convenient places to hurl their wastes. Although not a race suited to underground living, ogres do use caves to take refuge from the fiercest of storms, and a few tribes even dwell in them. Those that live in caves high up amongst the peaks are some of the toughest of all ogres, for they persevere in frigid climates and constantly battle enormous beasts for possession of the best lairs. The ever-changing landscapes. Unnatural phenomena are commonplace in and around the mountains of Mourne, for the proximity of the Chaos Wastes plays havoc with their landscape. It is not unusual to see mountain-sized glaciers form in the northernmost ranges and move south. These frozen masses are often created by the eruption of frost volcanoes, great conical mountains that spew not magma, but instead rivers of ice. Untainted by the powers of raw chaos, a glacier might take decades to form, and the ice mountain would travel only a modest distance. Yet in the mountains of Mourne, glaciers can form in a day and move as rapidly as a charging rhinox, eradicating all in their path: camps, roadways, and even mountains. It is a land where even the summits seem to be at war. The ogres tell of living mountains, colossal rocky titans, as once walked the lands. To ogres, all quakes or tremors are merely signs of the enormous creatures waking up or showing their displeasure. The most famous of all the sentient peaks is Mount Thug, and ogres place great store in scaling its lethal heights. Mount Thug is as malevolent as it is vast, and most who dare its slopes are crushed by avalanches or caught up within stony jaws as the mountain feeds. To the ogres, these occasional shifts are just another danger to overcome. The nomadic tribes keep a wary eye for oncoming threats and, more importantly, for opportunities that might arise, such as a newly covered mountain pass or recently made migratory route for tasty herd animals. Valleys of Death. Most ogres reside in the valleys, where they are less subject to the severe cold and wild beasts of the higher altitudes. Each separate valley is considered the territory of a single tribe. Ever straightforward, an ogre tyrant defines his kingdom by the distance he can see in all directions. This might seem like a vague method of declaring borders, but the steep, sheer-sided valleys frame one's vision and offer, at least to an ogre, clear-cut demarcation. Best of all, this approach leaves opportunities for ambitious tyrants to crane their almost non-existent necks and thereby expand their realm. Mountain passes or rivers that cut through the valleys allow greater vistas and naturally form contentious hotspots between neighboring tribes. Disputes are settled by fighting, either by battle between tribes or a challenge between tyrants. With a race as warlike as the Ogres, such disputes are common and bloody, with the weaker tribes driven out or devoured. Thus, the Ogre system mirrors that of the beasts of the higher mountains. Only the strongest survive. Ogre camps are found in the sheltered valleys, but to get to the majority of the game, they must travel further up the slopes. With iron-shod clubs and a determination born deep within their bellies, Ogre hunting parties ascend the mountains daily to secure vast quantities of fresh meat. Ogres hunt anything and everything, and there is not a single species in the mountains of Mourne that has not been hunted, killed, and eaten by them. Hunting parties must be wary, however, as blinding snowstorms can sweep out of nowhere, and there are always other carnivores on the prowl. Either beasts large enough to confront a large group of ogres, or stealthy creatures that will pick off any stragglers. On occasion, one of the enormous predators of the upper reaches will venture downwards, daring to enter the ogre-dominated valley lands and prey upon the tribes. Ogres are well accustomed to fighting such monsters, and only the largest and most ferocious of their kind ever survive long enough to return back up the mountain. Amidst the lowlands and boulder-strewn vales are found the only trees that grow in the mountains of Mourne, tall stands of pines, whose gnarled bark forms leering faces, and, higher up on the crumbly shale slopes, groves of wind-buffeted conifers, their twisted roots clinging tenaciously to the mountainside. Ogres value such hardwoods because the Mourne wood make the sturdiest clubs. Trees are also felled for use in other constructions, such as banner poles, tent frames, crude feasting tables, and even the ramshackle war machines that are hauled to battle by the Rhine oxen. The Firemouth. Every so often the skies of the Ogre kingdoms are thrown into turmoil, set alight by the volcano the Ogres call the Firemouth. Located near the center of their mountainous realm, the vast conical edifice is considered by Ogres to be the offspring of an unholy alliance between the Great Maw and the Sun. As a result, the Firemouth is itself a god, given reverence by all Ogres, and especially worshipped by those tribes that have witnessed the power of its titanic eruptions. The volcano even has its own blazing priests, the Firebellies. The majority of the Firebellies cluster in a small tribe at the foot of their molten-hearted god, where they lead many rituals. After years of service to their god, Firebellies often become possessed with wanderlust, and will join other tribes throughout the Ogre kingdoms, or even travel to far distant realms. Along the way, Firebellies will spread the word of their angry god before returning, leading a pilgrimage of many Ogres. Never truly at rest, the Firemouth periodically bubbles and spits thick streams of lava down its sides like an overbrimming meat pot. Its major eruptions are always seen by the Ogres as a sure sign that it is time for war. Roads and mountain passes. Many routes lead into the mountains of Mourne, but few go through to the other side. Most are little more than crude paths worn by the migrations of beast herds, although some are crumbling stone roads, doubtlessly of ancient dwarf make, for they wind upwards towards long-abandoned mine workings, or, more mysteriously, end at cliff walls. There are numerous dusty, boulder-lined paths between the kingdoms, although to enter another kingdom without leave of its tyrant and payment of a hefty fee is a declaration of war. There are a few well-known roadways, although to call them trade routes implies that they are better maintained and traveled than is true. The most renowned route is the perilous Ivory Road, a trail that enters the mountains of Mourne at the Giant's Rocks, a crude ford in the river Ruin, made of colossal stones hurled into the raging current to form a rare, if dangerous, crossing. It is an ominous sight, for from there the road passes between two immense pinnacles that frame the most accessible entrance into the mountain range. They This is the Valley of Horns, a steep-sided vale littered with the petrified remains of enormous beasts, many of which can only be relics from a distant age of the world. At one point, the Ivory Road passes through the ossified ribcage of a creature so large it defies belief. Elsewhere, the largest of ancient tusks have been stood on end to form imposing archways, which even a giant could easily walk through without stooping. All tribes covet the valleys through which the Ivory Road runs, as steep fees can be demanded from any who dare travel along it. There is such competition for these prime locales that only the strongest of tribes can maintain control over such plum territories for long. Currently, the largest tract of the Ivory Road runs through the kingdom of the Ogre over-tyrant, Grease's Goldtooth. As this road is the best path for ogres taking a pilgrimage to the Great Maw, there is always revenue streaming into the coffers of Grease's. And right there is where we are going to end this video. I would keep going, but I was at the Seahawks 49ers game on Monday and my throat is still very sore. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.